He's 52 years old, got a job, got a car, got an ex-wife and a couple kids he loves but doesn't really raise, and his lights got cut off last Tuesday, not because he didn't have the money, because he didn't feel like sitting down and paying the bill. He saw the notice, he stepped over it. He'll get to it. He always gets to it. Eventually. I'm Franklin, and I want to talk to you about a specific kind of brother you already know. Maybe he's your cousin. Maybe he's your ex. Maybe, and stay with me here, maybe when you catch him at the right angle in the bathroom mirror, maybe he's you. We're talking about the black Gen X man who's still operating like he's 17 with a job at Foot Locker. Grown body, grown bills, teenage operating system. And it didn't happen by accident. Something specific happened to this generation in a specific window, and it left a mark that's still walking around in Jordans. Let me show you what it looks like first. Then I'll show you where it came from. You ever notice how he treats his woman like she's his mama? Not in a sweet way. In a, did you put my keys somewhere way? In a, what's for dinner way when he could see for himself what's for dinner? He wants her to remind him about the dentist. He wants her to know where his social security card is. He wants her to be mad at him a little bit, because mad means she's paying attention, and paying attention means she's running things. And if she's running things, he doesn't have to. You ever notice how he can't have a hard conversation? Somebody brings up something real, about money, about feelings, about why he disappeared for 2 days, and he goes somewhere. He gets quiet, or he gets loud. He cracks a joke. He gets up and walks out the room. He turns the TV up. The man can argue about a basketball game for 45 minutes, but ask him how he's actually doing, and he'll look at you like you spoke Portuguese. You ever notice the money thing? Not broke. That's a different conversation. I'm talking about a man who makes okay money and still can't tell you what his light bill costs. Can't tell you what's in his 401k, if he has one. Got 3 streaming services he forgot he was paying for. Lent his nephew $600 2 years ago and never asked for it back, because asking would be uncomfortable. The credit score is a mystery. The taxes are late. There's a letter from somebody on the counter, and it's been there since March. This is what we're looking at. And the temptation is to say he's just irresponsible. He's just immature. He needs to grow up. But that's the lazy take, and we don't do the lazy take here. Because something happened to him. Something happened to a whole generation of him. There's a psychologist named Dan Kiley who, back in 1983, wrote a book about grown men who never finished growing up. He called it Peter Pan syndrome. Now, you won't find it in any official manual as a real diagnosis, but he laid out 7 things these men had in common. Emotional paralysis, slowness to react and decide, trouble in social situations, avoiding responsibility, treating the women in their lives like mother figures, a distant, complicated relationship with their fathers, and magical thinking, the belief that things will just work out, somehow, without them having to actually do anything. Read that list again. Slow. Tell me you don't know somebody who checks every single box. Tell me you don't know 5 somebodies. Now here's where it gets interesting. Kiley wrote that book in 1983. You know what was happening in 1983? The exact thing that was about to mess up an entire generation of black boys was just getting started. Crack hit in late 1984. And what came with it was more than a drug problem. It was a demolition. Between 1984 and 1989, the homicide rate for young black males more than doubled. Doubled. If you were a black Gen X kid, you were exactly the age where that math was hunting you. You were 12, 14, 16 years old, and the funeral schedule in your neighborhood looked like a tour calendar. And it didn't stop when the 80s stopped. A study by Fryer, Heaton, Levitt, and Murphy found the murder rate for young black males was still about 70% higher 17 years after crack arrived. They estimated around 8% of the murders in the year 2000 were still traceable to the long tail of what crack did. But the bodies in the street are only one piece of it. The same research found that during the crack era, fetal death rates went up, low birth weight birth went up, weapons arrest went up, and the number of black children in foster care doubled. All of these jumped somewhere between 20 and 100%. So you've got a generation of boys who either got born into this thing or got hit by it during the most important years of growing up. Now layer this on. The Institute for American Values ran the numbers on black kids born in the early 1980s and estimated those children would spend nearly 11 years of their childhood without a father in the home. 11 years out of 18. That's about 60% of a childhood. And remember, Gen X is the older brothers and sisters of those kids. Same neighborhood, same uncles, same dinner table, same gap. So picture the scene. You're 9 years old. Dad's gone. Could be gone to the grave, gone to prison, gone to the streets, gone to another woman, gone cold and quiet in the back room. Doesn't matter which version. He's not coaching you through anything. He's not showing you what a man does when he's scared, or behind on money, or wrong about something. He's just absent in the way that counts. And Mama's doing what Mama's gotta do. Working 2 jobs, watching the door, watching the news, watching the block. And because the world outside is genuinely trying to eat her son alive, because the homicide stats are real, because the foster care pipeline is real, she does what any mother in that position does. She holds on tight, too tight. She makes the world smaller and softer inside the house, because the world outside is too big and too sharp. There's research from places like the Cleveland Clinic on what they call low distress tolerance, the inability to sit with discomfort, and one of the things they point to as a contributor is permissive and overprotective parenting. Mama didn't do anything wrong. She did what she had to do. But the effect on a developing boy is the effect. He grows up never having to handle his own discomfort because somebody handled it for him, because the alternative was losing him. And then there's a 2017 meta-analysis by Stevenson and Black that looked at father absence and how it affects gender development in sons. The finding that jumps out, the effect showed up specifically in studies of Black populations, or populations the researchers didn't specify by race, not in studies of white boys. So when we say this hit different in our houses, we're not making it up. The data says it hit different in our houses. Put it all together, father out the picture, mother in survival mode, holding her boy so close he doesn't develop calluses, the neighborhood literally killing his friends, school telling him he's a problem, and no language anywhere, not in the house, not on TV, not at the lunch table, for what any of this is doing to him. So what does an 11-year-old boy do with all that? He shuts down. He gets very, very good at not feeling things. He learns that the way to survive is to not need anything from anybody, and to not let anybody see when something hurts. He learns that softness gets you laughed at, which to an 11-year-old is the same thing as getting killed. He learns to perform okayness, and he gets so good at performing it that by the time he's 30, he can't tell the difference between performing it and being it. That's the boy. Now let's go back to the 52-year-old man stepping over the light bill. He's not lazy. He's not stupid. He's running the only software he ever got installed. And that software says, don't deal with hard things until they catch fire. Don't talk about money, because money was scary and there was never enough. Don't plan for the future, because planning for the future assumes you have one, and the version of you that was 14 in 1986 was not at all sure about that. Don't get too attached, because everybody you got attached to either left or got taken. Don't tell anybody you're struggling, because struggling is how they get you. You wonder why he can't commit. He watched commitment get people killed. He watched his uncle commit to the streets. He watched his mama commit to a man who left. Commitment in his developmental window was a thing that broke people. So now you're 48 and you want him to put a ring on it, and his whole body says no, and he can't tell you why, because he doesn't know why. You wonder why the woman in his life ends up being his mama, because the only template he ever
had for a woman who stayed was a woman who took care of him, who made the world smaller so he could survive it. So when he finds you, his nervous system goes, oh, this is what love is. Love is somebody handling my life for me. And when you stop handling it, he doesn't feel free. He feels abandoned. And then he gets cold, or he gets loud, or he disappears for 2 days. Now here comes the money piece, and this is where it really starts to hurt. The Urban Institute looked at lifetime earnings for men aged 58 to 62, so right at the front edge of Gen X. The average white man in that group had earned about $2.9 million over his career. The average black man in that group had earned about $1.8 million. That's roughly a $1.1 million gap over a working life. And before you tell me it's all the system, yeah, some of it is. The system is the system. But some of it is also a man who could have gotten the promotion and didn't go for it because filling out the form felt like too much. Some of it is the 401k he never set up because the HR lady talked too fast and he was embarrassed to ask. Some of it is the house he didn't buy because he didn't open the mortgage pre-approval email for 6 weeks. Some of it is a side business that died because he wouldn't return the customer's phone call. And the current numbers say the gap is still right there. Bureau of Labor Statistics for 2025. Median weekly earnings for full-time black men sit around $1,039. White men, $1,354. Asian men, $1,780. So a black man working full-time is making about 77 cents for every dollar a white man makes, and about 58 cents for every dollar an Asian man makes. Some of that is the latter being rigged, and some of that is a brother who won't ask for the raise because asking is too vulnerable. And vulnerable is the one thing he was trained from age 11 to never, ever be. Here's the part that's wild, though. PBS reported on the Harvard and Census study looking at what kids born to poor parents earn by age 27. For the 1978 cohort, which sits right in the middle of Gen X, the black-white income gap was nearly $13,000. For millennials, that gap had shrunk noticeably, meaning the gap is narrowing for the kids coming up behind us. Our generation specifically caught the widest version of the financial squeeze. We were the cohort that took the punch. So now you got a 52-year-old man with arrested emotional development, arrested financial development, and a whole second half of life staring at him. What does he do? What he does, mostly, is nothing. Because that's what the operating system says. And when you suggest therapy, he laughs, or he gets offended, or he says he tried that one time and the lady didn't get him. And he's not entirely making that up. CBS in Baltimore did a piece on black men and mental health, and one stat in there explains a whole lot. Black men make up less than 6% of therapists nationwide, less than 6%. So when a brother finally works up the nerve to go sit across from somebody and say the unsayable, the odds that the person across from him looks like him, sounds like him, has any clue what it was like to be him at 13 in 1987, those odds are tiny. And research published through the NIH backs up what you already suspected. Black adults are less likely than white adults to actually receive mental health treatment. And black men in particular carry a heavy load of shame around even talking about their feelings in a therapy setting. The study found black men endorsed what they called dominant masculinity at higher rates and reported more shame about emotional disclosure. Translation, he was taught not to cry, and now he can't, and he's mad at you for asking. Meanwhile, the same Baltimore reporting pointed out that suicide is the third leading cause of death among young black males. So this is a life and death situation that an entire generation of men was trained to never speak on out loud. That's the weight of it. And look, I'm not here to make you sad. I told you up top, we don't do funeral voice on this channel. So let me say the thing that matters. None of this is a sentence. The 52-year-old man stepping over the light bill is not stuck there. The operating system can be updated. The fact that he developed these patterns for very good reasons in a very specific historical window with a very specific institutional shock pressing on his neighborhood, that's a diagnosis. And a diagnosis is the big
thing you need before you can do anything about it. You know what a diagnosis is? It's the moment you stop calling yourself lazy and start calling it avoidance. You stop calling yourself a bad partner and start seeing the template you got handed. You stop calling yourself stupid with money and start seeing a 13-year-old boy who never saw a checkbook balanced in peace. The man-child label is mean, and it's also incomplete. The brother we're talking about is a man who got handed a child's toolkit and was told to go build a life with it. And he built what he could. Some of it is standing, some of it is leaning, some of it is on fire. The work, if he wants to do it, looks like this. It looks like opening the mail, all of it, today. It looks like saying out loud to one person, something true about how he actually feels. It looks like finding a therapist, and if the first one doesn't fit, finding another one, and if that one doesn't fit, finding another one, because less than 6% is not 0%. They exist. It looks like sitting with discomfort for 10 minutes longer than he wants to, every day, until 10 minutes becomes 20. It looks like apologizing to the woman in his life for treating her like staff. It looks like asking his kids what they actually remember about him and being ready to hear the answer. And here's the kicker. The Gen X black man has a thing nobody else has. He survived the window that statistically should have buried him. He's still here. The 70% higher homicide rate didn't get him. The foster care doubling didn't get him. The crack didn't get him. Or if it did, he came back. The wage gap didn't get him. He's standing up. That's a kind of toughness most people will never need to develop. The trick is taking that exact toughness, the thing that got him through age 14, and pointing it at the bills, the conversations, the appointments, the feelings. Same muscle, different target. He spent 40 years getting good at surviving. He's got time to get good at living. That's the whole thing. Appreciate you sitting with me on this one. There's another video right there on the screen. Go on and tap it.